I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence, then let them in, chalk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I came to play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me, then I double up again, none of their knows, none of them cold. They just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies cutting it close, I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them beat before we ever spoke, I'm ready for smoke.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Startups on the Blocks. Mira, you can come on, turn your camera on, and we'll get you on stage here. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Hey, thanks for coming back on to give us a update. But first, I want to kind of thank our sponsors for supporting us. Um, we have sponsors that support our platform here, and also our pitch competitions and Bantucola. They're helping us live stream this everywhere, and we got a new partner, Startup Science, a little while ago. So we're doing great things with them, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So tonight, Amira, uh, would you remind people about yourself a little bit and your startup?
Sure. Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Amira Bello, and I am the founder and CEO of Mathematician Junior. I patented an abacus like math manipulative, and I created some course content, digital content, live content. Um, and Lloyd and I were just talking about just going through the process of finding that sweet spot for the business model that works.
Yes, that's fantastic. Yeah, so we're definitely glad to have you back on. We had a couple of new people in networking tonight, and that's always a fun part of our event. Is we started off with the hour of networking. I had a chance to kind of meet the one new person and talk to a couple other founders. And so, like one of the gentlemen I met, he was asking me, is the he didn't know much about the startup world, but he was asking me, are people is it real? Are people really helping people? Are people able to get money to help them build their product or service? And is it really real? So what would be your answer to that question?
So, my son's in the background. Excuse me.
No
Well, that's a
problem.
good question
So,
because it's a hunt, right?
yes,
We hear about all of these millions and billions and trillions of dollars out there specifically for women and African American women and Latinx, and you hear about it, and it's almost as though if so many people are saying it, then it has to be true. And if it is true, why doesn't it feel true? Why does it feel like I have to sift and search? And so that I'd say that's a double-edged sword,
yes,
because there is money out there, but what people don't hear is the hard work that you have to scrape to access it. And
yes,
oftentimes when you get good at that, so you have to kind of go through this terrible time of trial and error. And
yes,
when you hit it once or twice and you figure out that algorithm or that source that matches with your venture and your vision, then it gets
yes,
easier and easier. So that's why we see companies that already have money continue to get money because it's such a process to get through the door initially. So I
yeah,
would
yeah.
agree with it.
Yeah, yeah, so they learn that process and understand what the formula is for getting that help. Yes, but in your story, you were saying last time you were on, you got started with, like, you had an idea and you didn't know if it could be patent, and you ended up getting some help to get it patent. So so how much does the patent normally cost?
So yeah, my story is riddled with help, right? Riddled with nonprofits and organizations that specifically were designed to help people like me, and I had to look for them. So I'll just start before even with the patent. I just had this kind of weird idea.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't think it was much. Like, oh, how about you just take this tool that's been around for 5,000 years and make it a little bit different?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an organization called 4.0 Schools based in Louisiana,
Okay.
and they're specifically like their mission is to find underrepresented entrepreneurs with an idea, right? Just with an idea. Um,
That's neat.
yes, related to um, an idea related to solving some of the inequities in education, right? So
Okay.
it's not just broad, it was very specific. Like
Hmm.
my idea was related to education.
Okay.
So I somebody just happened to send me the link, and this was before I even thought of ever starting a business. This is when my life was still sane, right? Like I just
Yeah.
went to work and came home and things were regular. I wasn't,
Yeah.
and through that fellowship with 4.0, they not only gave me $10,000, but they gave us a formula to test to see if there's a market for this idea, to see if there's validity, collecting the data, seeking out customers. So all of these preliminary things, had it not been for an organization like that and me finding the organization, the support, and the funding, we wouldn't even be talking about a patent.
Right. So, okay, gotcha. I thought you had got the patent before you got the 10 grand, but you got the patent after the 10 grand. So when I heard you tell a story about the patent, you got a patent, and how much did you have to pay?
I paid a total of $450, and that was just
Okay.
for the processing. But generally, patents cost upwards of $20,000.
Yeah.
I work with a prestigious law firm where their clients are Amazon, and these law firms they do a lot of pro bono work, and they do pro bono work oftentimes through a nonprofit. So there's a nonprofit here in Georgia called Georgia for the Arts. And what they do is they help micro entities align with firms who want to do this work. And, the rest is my story. I worked with
Yeah.
an attorney, I worked with a firm, and just kind of designing out and thinking through the entire utility process, which was great for me. And even because of the relationship we established through working through the application, once we received word that the patent was approved, then he continued to represent me with getting all the paperwork done to
Yeah.
finalize them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I actually didn't realize they help you with other stuff as well. So that's actually pretty neat. So this process of getting access to this stuff has to do with this individual or founder's mindset. So you have to kind of say, well, they say it's out there, and so I'm going to take their word for it. I'm going to believe them. But the mindset is that you have to develop this mindset. But what else you have to do is you have to develop, learn these skills and best practices. So Startup on the Blocks is about teaching you the best practices, and so that's but once you learn these things, you can actually communicate with things out in the ecosystem, out on the outer bound. So the only thing that's keeping you from all that stuff is out there is your ability to communicate, um, how to communicate to get the people to release this stuff that's out there. And so that's kind of why we're here. But being a founder is you go on this journey, and this is the lean startup journey that Ash Murray came up with for a founder. So you get this idea, and like you said, you have an idea, and then so you got to learn the how to pitch the business model for that idea clearly and concisely. So I had a guy come in into my office a couple of days ago, and so he, the black guy, he got a patent, and it was a pretty. Initially I didn't ask him what the actual patent was, but it was health related. But anyway, he came in. He was excited about his his product, and he had built a prototype and everything. And he was just kept going on and on about the benefits people were actually getting from it. And so, it's kind of neat. Amir, I just thought about it because your kids are doing the swimming stuff. I don't know if you did swimming stuff, but he came up with this idea that, and he related it to all babies or embryos are in water, floating in some type of liquid. And so he came up with this idea as an adult, you can actually get into this water and mixed with salt or whatever. But anyway, it's actually what it does. It builds up your lung capacity, and you can actually do. And so he's tested out quite a bit, but he's still got a lot of work to do on. But I kept asking him, I said, well, how do you, plan to make money with this thing? And he didn't understand the question. He just kept bragging about how, how it worked and how good it was. And then so I finally told him, I said, well, you know, what people want to know and what the people in the ecosystem want to know is how do you make money with that idea?
See, that question is really, really loaded, and folks who have had experience and have been immersed in the business world, it's an easy question to look at and answer, right? There's this direct correlation with idea or product and money. I am a teacher. I've been that's the entrepreneurship is really, really new to me. My
Okay.
parents were teachers and they told us all to be teachers. So in the beginning of this whole venture, my brother has his MBA from Darden.
Okay.
And as you ask the gentleman, and I'm sure everybody who comes into your office, well, how are you going to make money? And so first, we're so excited that we're doing something outside of what we've always done, that we're not even thinking like we're not even thinking of along that path. But when you hold a person like me to thinking about that, I take the easy route. I do the lowest hanging fruit because that's what I know. I
Yes.
know other moms like me will buy one unit at a time.
Okay.
And let me finish this thought. One unit at a time. And my brother's like, good luck, right? And I'm just thinking like, thank you, because I just got an order today for $57. And I'm so excited. And for a year and a half, that was really excited. It's funny, I just told my brother, I said, I'm working really hard for a little bit of money. I need to figure out how to make this thing work. But it took me years to see and understand that, because you spend so much time in the process of building or developing the tool or the process that you're doing. But before I even get into that, you were saying something about people not understanding how to get to the money. And you're talking about mindset. Let's really talk about mindset.
Okay.
Because at a certain point in my deep adulthood, I did not think that I had the capability of being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Accepting payments online, payment processing, SEO, customer acquisition, those terms had never been part of my vocabulary.
Okay. Gotcha.
Never. So when you say to someone like me, like, oh yeah, be a business owner. No, that's for other people. That's for other people with net worth and network and all of those other things. So at one point, and this was in 2018, I said to myself, I'm just going to make this my yes year. I'm going to say yes to meetings that I'd have no business, that internally, my internal mechanism is telling me say no, because you don't belong you don't belong in that room. You don't deserve to ask these questions. So I made it my yes year, and it was right before the pandemic.
Okay.
And that's when the patent came up. That's when I just started digging and feeling as though I needed to put myself in places that I didn't belong. I remember specifically when I went, the nonprofit that pairs you with the attorneys, they're in this like really high sedity building, downtown Atlanta. And, they had marble floors with like the glass railings.
Yes.
And I looked at this place, and I'm just coming from working with high schoolers.
Okay.
And when I talk of when you think about like so many messages that came from me, like, Amir, you don't belong here. You're in the wrong place. Like, you still have on your work clothes. No, really. But I made myself show up. And the first thing that an accelerator or an incubator needs to do is tell the person that you're allowed to show up with the knowledge you lack, the knowledge you have. Just show up, because every idea is $1 million idea. And for too many years did I not believe that my idea was $1 million. So mindset really starts with this internal mechanism. You have people with terrible ideas, but they have all the confidence and they have the mindset that this thing is going to sell, and they conduct themselves so much differently than your kind of meek, shyish people who are sometimes plagued with too much doubt.
Yes.
So mindset is really important. Before you even get into the business, you have to make sure that this person in front of you is understanding that their idea is just as worthy as Bezos's or anybody else's.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you said something that was really important. You say you've been working hard, and you are going to work hard because it is a journey. And so, and that's what the stand's trying to show. It is a journey, and you're going to spend a lot of time, working on your startup, and it's hard. But let's say you in this first 30 days here, you don't um, de- design a good business model. That means if your business model is broken and you don't find out to 2 years down the road, think of how much time you've wasted. And that's why you have to learn the best practice. You have to design your business model before you build anything. And that's what this chart is trying to show. This is where you get the buy-in. Once you design your business model, then you can pitch it, clearly and concisely. Then that's where you can get all the help, because people here you understand how you're going to make money. You're gonna market to this many people, and this many people you're going to be able to get. And in 3 years, I'm going to be doing an annual revenue of $10 million a year. And that's what's so important.
It's oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's literally what's important. But it's hard for a person to believe that you can actually design a business model before you can build or do anything.
You're so right. And this thing is so neat and organized. It actually intimidates me. Like the slope and the inverted hockey stick. It's phenomenal. Now, for somebody like me, it's for some people in this world, that is a perfect model, like right there with the 30-day marker.
Mm-hmm.
For someone like me looking at this, that's why I chuckled. I think it's great. But think about, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I work 9 to 5. I scrape and scrounge and look for like 30 minutes to change my website here or figure out a better payment processor there.
Yeah.
So my business model came out of pure chaos. My business model came out of just trying, right? Like if that can be the thing you do first, I think you have to just try. Like who's going to like your product? Who's going to like your idea? And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we think it's person cluster A, but it's really person cluster B. But until you just venture out and just throw it to the world and see who catches it, these things can come into play. And that's literally what I had to do. Like, I often talk about my journey, which was and still is this kind of zigzag, like you're going through a maze and you bump into a wall and you have to go the other way and backtrack and do something better. At this point of the juncture, like 3 years in, this model would be nice for me because I've made so many mistakes that I could narrow down these boxes. But I think I had to make those mistakes. I had to kind of have these relationships that were created through happenstance for me to get to that point.
Yeah, and that's why with Startup on the Blocks, we like to catch people before they even get started, and because you can kind of fine tune their journey if they develop that mindset. And so like so the bottom line is one thing from just listening to you, you say you're still working, you're raising a family, and so you can, from my standpoint, I think you don't really have to worry about quitting a job until you're in this pink or even this color here or even up in here. And that's the other thing people don't really get is that you why would you quit your job when you not make, you see what I'm saying?
Right, but listen to a different perspective.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, why would you want to quit your job if you're not? That's one perspective. The other perspective is I can't wait to quit my job to dedicate my 9 to 5 to this thing that I love.
Okay.
So there's that wanting to get to that space where I have the time to dedicate. So that's the other side of this, right? Yeah. Maybe I can get from the blue to the pink had I not only had, 3 hours in a month to work on this, to think through this, to write out my email sequence. So some people are rushing to quit. They want to quit.
Yeah.
I'd rather quit.
Oh, well, I definitely don't. Yeah. So it's just whatever position you're in and the team you have, because what the idea for this chart too is that you can at this point If you got a solid business model, you should be able to recruit a team. So you're not by yourself. You actually have a team. And so that's what the beauty of this model and the reason why it's hard to have a team is because people don't understand how your potential co-founder don't understand how you're going to make money. So why is he or she going to join you if they don't understand how you're going to make money? And that's when you apply for a program, depending on how competitive it is, it's going to be how well you can pitch, how well you're going to be able to make money. Yeah, and that's what this chart is trying to unlock. And the other thing it's trying to unlock is that it is a journey, it is a process, and you don't have to know the whole process. You just have to do it step by step. You learn as you go. All the things that you're doing in this, we got 10 teams going through this problem solution fit right now, and so it's just a journey. And then once you finish that training, then there's some training to help you get through this part and this part, and that's what all these programs are for, to work with you on your journey. And a lot of people say, well, at the idea stage, who's going to help me? In your case, you got help before you ever even formed the company, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so I think that's beautiful. I want to show something, else really quick here, if I can find it. So I think this is the thing, but I want to show this thing. So so one of the programs for people at different stages is Microsoft has, and so they switched their program up, where if you're at the idea stage, they give you this much of any kind of thing. And so as you get further along on that journey, you see here. Now, what's unbelievable about this new program, so it doesn't matter what stage you're at, then you can join their hub. And so this got this open AI thing. I'll skip that for a minute. But they give you $3,000 worth of free credits from Bubble to actually, if you want to build your MVP through a no code. And then let's say you need to do some marketing, and you get a paid LinkedIn account, so you can actually do some prospecting for customers. You see what I'm saying? And so it's just on and on. They got these tools here that you can actually use from day one. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so that's like an example. So have you been running into many founders up in Atlanta that have been getting laid off from their high-tech jobs from Google, Stripe, or anything like that?
Not necessarily founders, but people.
People.
Uh-huh.
So guess what? This particular opportunity right here, if you get funded, not fired. So if you've been laid off from one of these major companies, they got a program you can apply for, and they'll give you $100K. You don't even have to have a company for them.
So, and this kind of reminds me of the earlier part of our conversation.
Yes.
Where we said this money is out there, and it sounds phenomenal. Do you know how many people they fund in a year?
Yeah. So yeah, it's in here somewhere. I think it's 20. They're going to do 20. And it starts. I think the deadline is sometime 20 founders, and they provide support. So say even one of your co-founders could be laid off from one of the things. But anybody can apply. Yeah. But it's just go to show there's opportunities out there, and that. So kind of what my deal always has been is taking it. If you're going to do something, what are all the resources that are available for you to do that? So we send out that newsletter every week, with the opportunities in there. So I'm using this. I found out about this. So you heard of Notion, right? Because Notion.
No, I haven't.
So, but that's, in Goody Nation, that's what they use is Notion. So that Founders Portal, that's Notion.
Okay.
Yeah, and so so this is we been working on this, and we're using a product called Coda, and so it's like Notion where you can actually do a lot of things. And so like I'm gonna search this for Coda. Let's see if I got it in there. I should should have it in there. But where did it go? Is my application not working right today? Let's see. I'll search it from here. Okay. So Coda for startups. So if you're a startup, you can get Coda for they give you $1,000 worth of credit, and you can build your MVP in Coda.
Oh, that's nice.
You see what I'm saying? And it's a interesting proposition, um, but so this is just a what Coda calls a document, and you you literally can build this document, and I just got to share it right now, but I can actually publish it as a website.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so you as a founder, you can actually take advantage of look for these opportunities that are in this database. People, all the anybody, people of color, women, but you don't even need any of this. All you have to do is just click one of these things and clear this up. And so you can search, you can say women or whatever you want to search, and you can search it, and it'll pull up the opportunities that are available for women, and that's kind of what the idea is. So it's just to show you there are programs out there that you can actually connect with. I show you that Microsoft one just because it's just an example of what these big companies are doing to support founders, and it's plenty small companies as well. But that's enough of that. I just kind of wanted to say, but the point on that those opportunities that are out there, it doesn't matter where you are on this journey. You see what I'm saying? That's what my point is, and even for individuals. And so that the playbook, and then so the idea is you as an individual have to learn these best practices. You got to get the mindset, but the way you get the best practices is take advantage of organizations like the Kukua Institute, where I started on the Box program. There's tons of other organizations out there that are doing stuff, and what you want to do is you want to unlock all these opportunities that are over here. And so, and there's and this is just a sample of lists but there's like tons of things out there. So that's kind of what the idea. But it's in order to get in most of these or any of these programs, you got to be able to pitch how you make money with your idea clearly and concisely in writing or verbally. And so Pharrell Williams has that ambition fund, and he's hosting the pitch competition both for the HBCUs and the Black founders. And a student from FAMU won $200,000. They showed up on my LinkedIn profile today, I believe, or yesterday. So that's kind of what the opportunity is. So that's enough for that chit chat. So let's get back to your what's been happening with you, over these since February. You were on back in February.
So as you said, you have to kind of continue to put yourself in spaces and circles that help you think through your business model, and not just your business model, but what your processes for prospecting business looks like. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate enough to be in a Goldman Sachs 100. It's 1 million Black women in business, and phenomenal coaches that really kind of helped carve out these processes And so oftentimes we get caught up in where we are right now. Like right now, I am
Mhm.
a solopreneur. But what that program was able to help me do is really kind of project, well, what about 5 years from now, right? What type of positions do you want to hire for? And what do those job descriptions look like now? Don't wait till then, now. So just kind of doing those projections. Um, in February, I was still thinking of kind of a singular class model designed around my junior counselor, and I've expanded since then. Um, where I offer other classes, and that's come from working with other people, bringing on a team and letting their expertise lead. So it's really nice to kind of start the formation of a center versus a singular abacus math focused class. So that's really nice in a sense, but it's also kind of figuring out, oh, okay, so this thing works. So what's the model around that? So everything is kind of, as you stretch yourself, you have to still evaluate, test, and pivot within those new boundaries. So again, as we started, as you said, finding that sweet spot, finding the place that works with the customers that you work with, and finding the messaging and being still in the business and drawing people wherever that looks like, whether that looks like marketing or what have you. So Mathematician Junior has grown. We went from offering stuff, from selling a product to selling a product and offering classes virtually, to offering classes in person, to expanding our class offering. So we're moving in directions. Things are still slow and wonky, but they're still exciting at the same time, because sometimes you open up your I open up my Stripe and I see what the revenue was for last month. And I was like, really? Okay. If I can do 5, then I should be able to do 50. And I just have to figure out how I got the 5. Oh, you're on mute.
My computer was like it was running hot or something. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, how did you find out about the Goldman Sachs opportunity? How did you get into that program?
Sure. Like most opportunities, again, getting into those spaces become really important. So, for example, many or most of the accelerators that you're part of, they want you to succeed. So they are constantly sending you other programs and other opportunities. So it came from an email. I don't remember if it was an email for 4.0 schools, or if it was a Goody Nation kind of throughout. But once you get yourself in these spaces, you find yourself kind of being in the midst of other opportunities that are available. I cannot tell you exactly, but so I put in the application, and it was really funny. So again, being in spaces, putting yourself in spaces that you don't feel like you should be in. So I
Hmm.
specifically remember the requirements for the Goldman Sachs. You had to be in business for more than a year. And one of the requirements was you had to have generated over 250,000 in revenue. Right? I was like, well, that's not me. Immediately I eliminated myself. And after having a conversation with my brother, he says, listen, Amir, 250,000 in revenue. He says, you can probably count on two hands how many Black owned businesses have done that.
Hmm.
And his statistic was real. And when I thought about it, I was like, well, you know what? Just deny me or reject me. I'm just going to go ahead and put in that application. And I did. And I was interviewed, and I just showed up, and I was authentic, and I was real. And I just told them, like, this is what I know. This is what I have no clue about. This is what I'm willing to learn. And, I just showed up as my best self, and I got accepted into the program. And for those people thinking about programs and other things, so I was in the inaugural group. I was in the first Goldman Sachs 1 million Black women group. And when I say the organization rolled out, not the red carpet, but they rolled out a golden carpet. The very
Wow.
first meeting we had with Melissa Bradley, who is the founder of 1863 Ventures,
Wow. Okay.
minority, she was our coach. Like, she was in the space. And it was the first meeting, and all 170 Black women are in there. And the first thing she said, she was like, listen, y'all. She said, y'all made it. Y'all did it. You're here. Like, relax. And women became so emotional. Like, people started crying, because it was that message that resonated, that, you know what, you got the pieces. So it was a very powerful experience. It was There were some very needed technical aspects, but when you got all of us in the room, we needed those emotional boosts. We needed those confident builders because oftentimes those are the barriers for women.
Okay, fantastic. So the so you're we peel back out a little bit. You had started participating in programs, and we met in Goody Nation, which supports Black and Brown founders. And when I got started in Goody Nation with the Kukua Institute a year and a half ago, they barely had a couple hundred founders, and I hear now there's somewhere between 600 and 700 founders, Black and Brown founders, that they're supporting. But I remember shortly after you joined Goody Nation, and then all of a sudden I hear you got in some program in Atlanta. You know, what was it? Because when you were on, you said you couldn't announce this program you had got selected for.
It is the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, which is funded through Invest Atlanta. So it is one of the only types of female-funded entrepreneurships through a city. So it's an excellent program that not only kind of gives you all the supports for creating your business, but I think it's really important for people who are starting a company to start to understand the mechanisms within your city, right? The who's
Mm-hmm.
who, where do I go? Where do I go? Who do you go to? And it really helped with kind of just getting my entry into Atlanta. Like I've been here, I'm a resident, but being a resident and being a business owner in a city are two very different things. They're two very different circles that you need to make sure you're running around your chamber of commerce and knowing who your district people are because there's funding and other things. They made sure that you check the fundamental boxes. Oftentimes people start a business, for example, you might live in one county and you might transact and do business in a city, but it's really important to be licensed in the city from which you live, just to have those basic fundamental boxes checked. So when you have these grants and other opportunities that come down the pipeline, they just kind of make sure that you have all the fundamental things. Are you licensed in our city? Do you pay taxes in our city? And those types of things open up huge opportunities. So the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, and part of that program gives us a lease for a building that's downtown because oftentimes as businesses, you're not quite making enough to have a space, but you need to have an address to qualify for certain grants. So they really checked some fundamental boxes that are completely important for mobility and for growth. So now when I am applying for grants and other things, I have a space downtown Atlanta in a Flatiron building. And it's a wonderful thing to have. So that in itself is an excellent resource.
Yeah. So what type of space is that? Is it just a business address, or is it a place that you can actually use to conduct your
So
business?
it's the headquarters of the Women Entrepreneurship Initiative, right?
Okay.
So it's more like a co-working space
Gotcha.
with
Gotcha.
conference rooms. Yes.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So now, how did you hear about that opportunity?
These are all great questions.
Was it through
I
Goody Nation?
I remember now. It was not Goody Nation.
Okay. Gotcha.
I have a lease for a space in Atlanta called Pittsburgh Yards, and Pittsburgh Yards is a building
Mm-hmm.
specifically for startups. So low cost rent, a low entry, so you again can have a space to conduct your business for startups like me. And
Mm-hmm.
within that community, the Pittsburgh Yards marketing people let us know what's happening, what's coming down the pipeline, because Pittsburgh Yards is located in Atlanta. So that was definitely from an email from the Pittsburgh Yards marketing team.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying you have to get, as a founder, you have to get connected.
Well, you do. Like you have to get yourself in that space. You have to, like, even if it's just getting onto email lists, even for example, if I were to be interested in something that Google's doing for companies that are well beyond where my growth area is. But I need to get on that email list because I need to be in the know. I need to know what they're doing. I need to know, how they recruit and when they recruit. So you just have to put yourself in that space. So if you're not going to put yourself physically in that space, you have to put yourself in that knowledge space of knowing who's doing what and where and how, and even showing up for some meetings, right? So let's say you're thinking about a business, but maybe not, and you're aware of your chamber, your district person, or a political representative, and they're talking to small businesses. Just show up, find out what they're saying, take their card, send them an email, because that's how opportunities are born. They're born out of just knowing about them.
Oh, fantastic. And I think that's part of our playbook that we suggest to founders. And so I'll pull this back up. But this first one is about the mindset, and then this is about the methodology, the Lean Startup methodology through Lean Stack. And Startup School this is a good example too. Startup School, they have a network of founders. They have the training, and they have, once you get your MVP, they have a kind of a marketplace. They also have a co-founder tool that you can help matchmaking with co-founders. And I'll get to the point I want to make here in a second, but like this startupscience.io, I have a meeting with these folks next Monday, and they have a 2-week pre-accelerator program where they teach you how to prepare to get into an accelerator program. And it's like, 2 weeks is like 6 1-hour lessons plus office hours. But anyway, this program was designed by some founders that have had 14 exits. 14 exits. Can you imagine being trained by somebody that's been through the process several times, a half a dozen times? They have a whole different perspective than what you might have. But the bottom line is as a founder, you can take that training for free, because we're one of their institutions that they partner with. So when you get on there, you use the institutional code to actually get the training for free. And so we had Randall on about a month ago. I don't think it's been a month, but anyway, he's been a part of several exercises himself, and he's actually teaching you and coaching you. But yeah, and the first lesson I tell people, that the first lesson is that they're teaching you to look for the company that's going to acquire you. That's the first step. Who's going to acquire you? Your startup. Who are you going to sell your company to? And that's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah. And getting back to the point you were making about, and we were talking about getting connected. So this Success site, that is a connecting site. And so you will get emails from all these opportunities all over the world just by building your profile up in that site, and your personal profile and your business profile. And like you were saying, you started participating there in Atlanta in the startup community, and then that's where the startup information flows. And so that's kind of the thing. And so, like I also say, 10 weekly networking events, and then that's what connects you to the ecosystem where all these opportunities are. And I can tell you story after story from founder after founder. One program refers you to another program. That program refers you to another program, and on and on and on. And wouldn't you like to get referred to a program that invests $100,000 in your business?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but so to me, you have to have a strategy. So my question is, I have to ask myself this question. Other founder has to ask yourself. Each year, Google gives $100,000 up to $100,000 to 50 Black founders. So you have to. So what does it take to be one of those 50 people? You see what I'm saying? So what's the strategy to do that? And so, do you know the answer to that question?
I do not. right? I
Yes.
do not know the strategy to be one of those 50 of Google. And I think it's there's some caution, at least from my perspective as a
Mhm.
fledgling startup, is that like these things are really important, right? Like, know what company is going to acquire you, know what the checklist is for Google, and there's so much to know. At the end of the day, I need to know what I want to accomplish and how
Yes.
I want to accomplish it. Because people throw these things at you. I know early in my venture, because of one of the accelerators that I was participating in early, which is their
Mhm.
thing, nothing wrong. It was, pitch, 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 investor, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch,
Mhm.
pitch. But after some years, I realized like I have no business like doing investor pitch. Investors are not interested in my type of business. Investors don't care nothing about my business model. I have a physical product and offer a service, not interested.
Mhm.
So, it's really important to kind of educate folks based on giving them a global picture and really allowing them to
Mhm.
understand the direction that they want to
Mhm.
take. I
Yes.
think initially I was really kind of pushed, which was good advice, right? You want to look at this B2B model. That's the way you want to go, which it is. But I had to kind of trudge along through my B2C model to understand the value and understand the fact that this B2B model isn't as scary as it was to me. So it's really important for accelerators to kind of meet people where they are, not only with their knowledge base, but with their comfort. And not to say let them be comfortable. No, push me,
Mhm.
but push me based on my knowledge base, right? Make
Yeah.
me understand why you're pushing me and why I need to
Yeah.
function outside of this. So those things all sound great, right? Like it sounds great to get Google to acquire me. It sounds great to think like those things sound really great.
Mhm.
And and they are, but we
Mhm.
have to make sure that these fundamentals, like how are you going to do your job description for your first hire? What are you going to
Mhm.
do if your payment process doesn't work or you have to transition to that? Well, what are the resources for me now that I am accepting credit card payments, right? What are
Mhm.
the resources for me to decrease those fees associated with
Yeah.
it? So
Yeah.
there are a lot of fundamental things that come along with this
Uh,
business
Yeah.
venture that are so fundamental that oftentimes people who might have gone through it or exited 14 times,
Mhm.
they forget about, and they're so like those are the things that consume us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so like for example, the when you look, back at all these different programs, um, they all have a different model on who they work with and who they like to work with. So that's what you got. So the way they teach you in startup school is because they're Y Combinator is one of the biggest venture capital firms. So they have a method they use. Startup science, they 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 teach you based on what they have experienced. The lean startup methodology, lean stack, it teaches it from a whole different perspective. It teaches you about designing your business model. See, all these other ones, they assume you already have a good business model and go. But lean stack teaches you the basics of designing a business model. It teaches you the basic of getting customers to switch from what they're currently using to your product or service. It teaches you how to do that. So it's a whole. So each one of these things, they have a different view of for what you're doing. And you're so right is that you have to kind of understand what do you actually want. What is your approach, and that's why the mindset is the first step. It's because you got to understand what you want and what you're going after, and then you look for the programs that fit what you want to do. And yeah, because the last thing most startup founders, like me, I wasn't thinking about an exit. Yeah, and so it's kind of, and you just have to realize. And so when I got started, I didn't want to give up any equity. And so what I did was I looked for corporate accelerator programs that don't require any equity. You see what I'm saying? and
It
that,
takes some fumbles to kind of get to that space, because some of those things are so attractive, right?
mhm,
Like, oh, I can get $100,000 and all you want is 2%. Okay.
yeah.
They sound so attractive when you're not really, when you don't have the background knowledge to really understand what the long-term ramifications
Oh
are.
yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, that's true. So I know there got to be some questions out there. What and doesn't have to be a question about what Amir and I are talking about, but it sounds like Amir, you actually once. So did all this happen after you changed your mindset to stop saying like no and to start saying yes? Did all this kind of transpire after you switched that a little bit?
100%. Like
Okay.
100%. So there's a woman, her name is Melissa Brown. She's a life coach.
Okay.
And she identifies things that we say or do, or, well, I'll be more specific, things that I say and say, just speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and the actions that come behind it that are just limiting for no reason, right?
Yes.
Even the fact that, she says, as moms, this is what we do. We tend to say, I'll do this or this. She's like, change that or with and. I'll do this
Okay.
and this and figure it out.
Yeah.
So as part of that dialogue, you know, it is a mindset. Like certain people succeed because of how they think. That's it, and the behavior that comes behind that. So I know that I knew that I really had to evaluate and adjust my thinking in terms of this business venture. I couldn't, I had to tell myself like you're going to figure it out, and there's a way. So
Mhm.
one of the specific examples is I remember I was speaking to like advisor after advisor after advisor in all these different spaces through some access that I had to advisors and people who are knowledgeable, because I wanted a wooden product, right? I was
Okay.
3D printing. The 3D prints were costing me about $29, and I was selling my product for 30 because I didn't feel right selling a plastic piece of something for more than $30,
Okay.
right? So I'm profiting a penny. So, I spoke to a gentleman. I think he was with the AT, I can't remember the accelerator, but it was just one of those quick, like, speed
Mhm.
calls, pick somebody's brain. And he was like, figure it out. If you want to make it in wood, you don't have the money really. Just figure, other people have. And him just saying that, I was like, oh, okay, I will. And I
Mhm.
ended up finding a carpentry team in Indonesia who right now we still have a wonderful relationship. And it was just me asking questions, telling myself, where there's a will, there's a way. So I said to
Mhm.
myself, I'm at work here, like in the middle of teaching kids, and then I'm sending a text to my, lead guy in Indonesia, like, can you send me the specs on the, like, it was amazing. It's halfway around the world. And here, that little idea that I had in my head is being materialized halfway around the world simply because one man said, figure it out. Just figure it out. Other people have done it. So it starts with the mindset. It starts with asking the question. It starts with asking several questions. It starts with being okay with doors being slammed in your face, being rejected or denied, and just having the idea of what you want to accomplish and just continuing to go along until you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think flipping that switch and realizing that if other people, like I said, if other people are doing it, then there's got to be a way to do it. You need to figure it out. And a lot of things it is like you say, just a matter of asking the question. So so like if I put myself in your shoes, I say, well, I'm in the educational space. I would say, are there any corporate accelerators that will support um, somebody like me with an educational product? Are there any foundations will support somebody like me with with the yeah, and then so like you just start figuring out how to ask the question, and then start doing the Google searches or start talk, and that's the miracle. So
That's it.
yeah, so like let's just throw a hypothetical question out there. Are in your case, you found this to be true for in kind of like inventions and stuff, but is there, so like um, so if I said that here in Florida, there's a nonprofit organizations that help small businesses, do whatever they need to do, what would your answer be in the audience? Let's go ahead and put it. Would you say yes or would you say no? Is there a nonprofit? And we got somebody in the office who knows the answer because he's actually experienced it. So is there a nonprofit that helps you form your business or give you legal advice as a small business for free?
So the question is, do I believe that there exists a nonprofit in the state of Florida to help people form their business and answer legal questions?
Yeah, I'd give legal advice or whatever.
There's a nonprofit, there's a for-profit, there's a governmental agency, there's a local governmental agency, there's an SBA office, there's tons of course, yes,
Yeah.
they're out there. There's also agencies to help you access government contracts, and there's all of that is out there. It's what, just as we started this conversation, there's this like ethereal, but it's real ethereal cloud of resources out there. It's there. It might be hard to access. It might be intimidating. They might not answer the phone, but they are out there. You just have to understand. For years, my brother's been saying, Amira, like your product is perfect for SBIR. Like, I've never heard of SBIR. What is Small Business Innovation Research? I look at it, it's like 250. Now that's not for me. But then as of the last year, I'm like, yes, it is for me. Right. And there is an agency in the state of Georgia with like the only certified person for SBIR applications who they're a small business who are in place to help small businesses like me apply and put in competitive applications for the SBIR. Like you just have to, it's all about that mindset set shift. You want it, you figure it out, you go after it, and you make it happen as best you can.
Yes. Yeah, I was the reason why I asked that question is I was in a meeting earlier this this month, this year, I mean, and the guy sitting next to me, he was from Tallahassee, and he said, well, we got a grant, and we do provide legal services to small businesses for free.
I
Yeah.
just got off a call with a pro bono conversation with an attorney, and that was through the UPS. The UPS Foundation hired all these attorneys to schedule calls with small businesses like me, and I just got off the call. And again, the thing is just establishing the relationship. So after having this conversation with the attorney in Minnesota, where he happened to be, he was like, you know what, let me consult my folks in Georgia. They're going to reach out to you because there are a lot of people who do want to help this whole entrepreneur endeavor. They are out there. They're more than you think or we think. They're more than we know. They just have to know where we exist. That's just like your customer, right? Your customer needs to know that you're there, and you need to know where your customer is. And it's just about coming up with the right algorithm for us to connect and benefit and mutually benefit.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. So the audience, Terry is out there, and he's saying teach, 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 and he says he knows of an organization, and like I said, Troy said earlier, we're making good points. But I want to know if anybody got any questions out there about their startup and what some things they're going through right now. So maybe Amira and I can kind of help with that and just kind of finding a solution or pointing you in the right direction. Hmm. Yes. So it's pretty quiet out there. So we're so like it sounds like you found that formula for having a founder's mindset, and you're open to stuff, and so those two programs you mentioned, you got into one there in Invest Atlanta and that Goldman Sachs thing, and so those were some pretty good resources. You know, yeah, any other things you've been finding out since you were on back in February?
I've come to a conclusion. We just have to realize that in this world, there are people who have like different thresholds and comforts, and sometimes it
Hmm.
takes a minute. So as I mentioned earlier, like the low hanging fruit, the $60 sales were cute. But I heard this a lot in the beginning with working with ATDC in at Georgia Tech. You know, that you in order to really mature your company has to do business with other companies, right? That's the
Hmm.
reality. And the prospect of that a year or two ago, like, oh my God, how could I ever? So one of the things, it's nice to be able to bootstrap and do all this stuff, but the reality is you got to give yourself runway. So I have come to the conclusion that, I have to raise, create, generate capital to really be able to step into this next stage of the game with what you need. Like you need resource, you need capital, you got to hire people out. You can't do it all yourself. You need thousands to make thousands. You need 100,000 to make 100,000s. So the conclusion has come up like, I need the capital. So gone are the days of, putting in a lot of work, perhaps for a fellowship that's worth $10,000. They're very valuable years ago. Super. But now I need those $100,000 for Google. But before I get there, I really do have to make sure that I have that solid business plan. I need to be able to tell myself and make myself confident that I have a method and a strategy for not only generating revenue, but for acquiring new customers. And then whenever I get that infusion of money, all I have to do is replicate this model. So the things that you mentioned are really important. To be able to think about. And sometimes coming into a new business, you can't even imagine like 100,000, what am I going to do? Because that's a real question. Like, what am I going to do 100,000? But
Hmm.
now that I have this list that as soon as that money is placed into my business, it is dispersed in a way that has been planned out, mapped out, and at least there's been some thinking and thought around it. Gone are the days that we have for trial and error. So now it's about growth, and the direction of all decisions and all spendings and all expenditures and any hires have to be about the company's growth.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So, so yeah, that's and what and so that confidence you get is the business model. And I'm gonna pull something up here,
And there is
and
a question as you do that. I see that Daryl
you
has.
can go ahead and answer it. Mhm.
So Daryl's question is, how did you learn about scale and service side of your educational business? So I haven't learned about scale yet. Scale is when you go from like, 100 to 100 million. We're not there yet. So this is about growth. Growth is going from 100 to 500. So learning about growth is finding what works with 5 or 10 or 50 customers and being able to replicate that with 500. So the part of this is finding out how to get your first 50, your first 100 customers, and can I replicate that to get the next 500? And can I put something as a bridge to make sure that my company can sustain and service those customers right? So um, it's so I'm at a point where I've had, over 300 sales and I've sold this tool and I figured some things out, but 300 individual sales. So now the question is, how do I form my company so I can have one sale to sell 300 products versus 300 individual sales? So that's where I'm getting to the point. So it is education, it is learning it. So now I have to get into the space of engaging school systems and school districts and possibly even corporations who are looking for the services or the products that I provide. So just again, going back to that mindset of having to seek out and find that customer that now looks like a purchaser or a purchasing agent versus just an individual customer.
Yes, yeah, and I think so. Let's pretend we're going to, and I know we run short of time here, but we'll try to do this really quick. So let's pretend we're going to design a business model for your idea. So we come in the lean startup thing, and so like right now you have a direct model, right? You selling direct, even if it's to a business, it's still direct. Um, And so like in 3 years, where do you want to be? Do you want to be $1 million a year business or $10 million a year business? And we'll go with the $10 million a year business. And so like for each customer you have, what's their average um, amount of money they
Their
may
average
spend?
spend.
Yeah, average spend on a monthly basis. And so let's say you can get the customer, but everybody has to decide this and learn this on their own. They have to design their business model to get that recurring revenue each month. So I put $100 in there, and then uh, how long you expect to keep that customer. So we'll just put 3 years, but you see you got all that other flexibility in there on what you're going to do there, and then we'll just keep the conversion rate at 10%, and we'll keep the acquisition at 10% and the conversion rate at 10%. Um, and then so do you get any referrals from your product?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. So we'll just use a 10% number there. And what the lean stack method, the lean startup method says, use a kind of a 10x growth model. And so over the 3 year period, so a 10x. So you continue there. And so now you have, this says traction roadmap customer factory. And basically what it's saying for that particular, those numbers we put in there, it says you have to attract 148,300 people to your website, and you have to convert 10%, cent of them. But at the end of those 3 years, you have active, 8,000 some customers. And if it's impossible for you to attract this many people to your website, then you know that business model, you're not going to be able to get to that $10 million recurring revenue. But the reason why I show you this is it's just literally that simple. My minimum success criteria is this much in 3 years, and so if I price it at 100, I can play with this and change it to kind of see what is possible. And so this is a free tool that we provide to everyone, where you can design your business model and actually have some confidence in it. And it kind of shows you, see, like it's in here. And so this is right now, we're October, November timeframe. And a year from now, we would have, you know, looks like 243 new customers. So 2 years from now, a year from now, can you imagine having that many customers? But then you go like in the third year, you at that 10x thing, you had over 8,000 customers. And so it's just keeping it that simple. If you can have confidence in whatever that model. So, but the irony is you may find out that you may need to your average customer spend needs to be 150 or $200, and so like when you change that number, um, so let's say your average customer spend, let's just change one of them. Let's say it changes to 200, and then let's just save that. And I'll get off here in a second. So you see how I dropped the number of people you need to attract to your site. So when you can figure out this business model, then you can pitch it, because you know exactly what you have to do to get it. And that changes your whole mindset on how you pitch. Now, if you just created a hypothetical, um, um, predict how many sales you're going to make this year and next year, how many customers you're going to do. But it's better to have a model that you can play with and exercise to kind of understand what, if you do say you're going to do that, what does it require? And what does it require? Is it actually practical or not? So So this is just a tool that's available to everyone that's involved with us, and so it's just you have to decide whether you want to take the time to do it or not, so you can understand what it takes to get to that next level.
Well, those projections are really beneficial when you do kind of extrapolate those things out, because when I first went through an exercise of doing a similar thing, it just made the numbers real, right? It just
Mhm.
made the numbers real, and it demonstrates, hey, look, if you acquire about 50 more customers, this is what your monthly looks like. So I think
Okay.
anything that helps your efforts become more tangible
Hmm.
are helpful. So tools like that are super real, and
Yeah.
it's great that you all are using them.
Well, what's interesting is for you to be able to articulate that in a pitch competition, where you just enter a pitch competition and you're going to get free money with no strings attached. You see what I'm saying? Or you're going to get into a program. If you can literally talk the language of this business model, that's what's so amazing about it. You see, so it's just learning how to talk about what your business thing is, and so, but if you don't know how to talk in these terms, that's where the challenge comes.
And that's where getting back into those spaces and getting into circles, and you're absolutely correct, right? You're absolutely correct. If that is aligned with the goal of the entrepreneur, right? Some people might not want to. I promised myself months ago, I was like, I'm not going to pitch anymore. I have
Mhm.
conversations all day. But yeah, knowing the lingo, but just knowing how to articulate how you plan on making money is super
Yeah.
important.
And so when I say pitch, I mean pitch to get in a program, a pitch in a pitch competition, or a pitch to get a co-founder, or a pitch to get a business partner, a pitch to get a manufacturer over you see what I'm saying? That's what the idea of the word pitch mean in this case. You got to pitch your business model, and the people you want to partner with, they have to understand it. And that's what I'm saying. And that's how people come on board
Absolutely.
to help you out. Yeah. All righty. So we've covered a lot of ground here. I really appreciate you coming back on to give us an update. And so any final words before we get off here?
Sure. I think final words are important. Thank you for having me. It's always wonderful to have a conversation with you, since I don't see you weekly anymore. I think it's really important for folks to understand. We hear these terms, scale, growth, but it's really important to understand what you are really after, right? I remember talking to my brother, and I was saying, "Oh, I'm thinking about starting a business." He said, "Do you want to run a business, or do you, you want?" And there's very distinct things. So really kind of just look inside internally. Because I am a teacher, I enjoy the hands-onness of
Hmm.
this, and that is part of who I am. But that might not be the same case. So really be in line with yourself. Have conversations, as Lloyd said, start internally, like have conversations and reflection with yourself, like what you really want to do, and make sure that you stay in line with that. It might have to modify and make adjustments, but once you're doing that thing that brings that spark in you, just figuring all the peripheral stuff comes later. So I just want to thank you for being here. I want to wish everybody good luck, and just, tell yourself it is figure outable. It is
Yeah.
all figure outable.
Figure it out.
You can do it.
I'm
It
glad you
starts
said
with
that.
Google. It starts with Google or DuckDuckGo,
Yes.
and go down that rabbit's hole and find the thing that you're after, or accidentally stumble upon the thing that's going to change your life. But just make sure you know you're looking for it.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. And we want to wish everybody to have a happy Veterans Day. Thank all those who served and and family members who have served. So enjoy the holiday tomorrow. And Santa got a new comment. All right. But that's it. Thanks a lot, Amira.
Thank you. Nice seeing you, Lloyd.
Same here. You take care.
You do
Best
the
of
same.
luck on everything.